happened over time is that boarding school as the main vehicle of training children, when especially today we have free SHS and every child is supposed to go to school by our constitution. Education becomes universal. You have to deboardinize all the secondary schools and make it local. Once you reach a certain level, and especially where we are, boarding school as a public means of education is a no-no. I tell you that at this moment, people in boarding schools are likely to pick more antisocial things.
Strong arguments from the respected education administrator, Professor Stephen Ade, a man credited for transforming the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration, GIMPA. He minces no words in his call for public boarding schools to be scrapped. In this report, I ran his arguments by the public and some seasoned resource persons in the education sector for feedback. First, a section of the public.
With my boarding experience, it was very, very good. The house mistress, they were quite strict, so we are not misbehaving, and the food, they bought food because we are paying the fees. But I have a sister who is in boarding school because of FSHS. She always complains there's no food, they always take one-way food. But when I was in boarding school, there was variety. Sometimes we eat rice, banku, different. But because of the FSHS, I think they are not able to provide them enough food.
For me, I'm for boarding school. Yes, there are issues of manhandling of students by seniors, bullying of students. Mostly in our time, it was happening. But the essence of it that we are seeing today, that's where the worry is.
Now, let's speak to the president of the Old Students Association of Achimota School, who happens to be a former vice-chancellor of the University of Ghana and currently the Secretary General of African Research Universities Alliance, Professor Ernest Aite.
I am a very strong believer in the boarding school system. We didn't go to boarding schools only to go and learn mathematics and English and history or biology. No. We learned at boarding schools how to socialize. We learned how to live with our peers. We learned how to obey rules and how to live in an environment completely different from ours and be able to acquire new skills and so on, especially social skills. So I'm fully aware of the challenges with the boarding school system that we have in Ghana today. I'm fully aware of all of that. Even though we have these problems, I think they are still relevant. If the system is not working, it is for us to sit back and say, what is making the system not work? It is not simply boarding schools are no longer relevant. They are very, very relevant. They can be put to very good use, as they did in the past. We can make them deliver the kind of education that we want. It is for us to restructure. It is for us to realign them to today's needs.
On the civil society level, Kofi Asare has been watching the education sector as Executive Secretary of the African Education Watch. He shares his views about the issue.
And to an extent, if you look critically at why we take our children to boarding houses, mainly to learn discipline, and how to socialize and all that. I think that to a large extent, our children go to senior high schools within the boarding system, and then they come home with rather, in many instances, terrible attitudes that they didn't even have when they were leaving, their homes. And so one wonders whether the senior high school is still within the boarding school concept, a playground for learning discipline. Is it really instilling discipline our children? I don't think so. Economic cost of running boarding schools, so far as I'm concerned, is for me the biggest justification for its irrelevance.
Anis Hafa is a respected educationist who has taught in the US for more than 10 years and for the last 3 decades dedicated his life to improving education outcomes in Ghana. He owes the values he exudes in his professional life to boarding school, but is worried the current state won't deliver same quality.
I had the privilege of attending a Fanspim school in the 1960s. I was there in 1961. And of course, at that time, the population of Ghana was about 6-7 million. And we had 10 houses, and there were 600 students. So we were quite comfortable. For example, the house I was in and the court I was in had only 10 students, so we knew each other. And then we had house masters who were very close to us. In fact, you could walk to their homes and they could walk to the dormitories at a point in time, So the boarding experience at that time was fantastic because, like many other students who came at that time, we were not regulated at home. You go to bed when you want to, you study when you want to, even if you study at all. And then there's no telling what circumstances will pervade through our day. But I learned structure from secondary school at Infanspem, and I'm eternally grateful for it.
What's the way forward? First, Kofi Asare.
Parental responsibility must be taken by parents as much as practicable. I don't see this whole quarter of everybody must go to boarding school. No. I mean, it should be an exception, not a norm, as we have now. And so I will call for, that discussion. Of course, but Professor Dye's issue must also be looked at, discipline and boarding education.
For Professor Aite, the Ghana Education Service needs to empower school boards again.
My worry has been the fact that those who are better positioned to deal with it at our schools have been restrained by the rules and the practices of the Ghana Education Service. What happened in Adisado College, for example, is something that should have been dealt with immediately by the school board, not the GES. I know that the school management took steps to sanction those who were involved. The school board should have handled the entire matter. Today we have school boards that are quite powerless. They cannot discipline teachers, they cannot discipline students without approval by a higher authority. And that is where the problem is.
More schools need to be built. In addition, Anis Hafa demands a shift in the qualification and recruitment of school managers.
Typically, throughout our history, a person becomes very good teaching English language or chemistry or mathematics, and they evolve through the system and they become managers. But they're really not managers, though. They are just good at the discipline that they teach. If you have the 3 key principal assistants, like for instruction, for management, for housing and dining and so on, the head's role should be different. In the sense that, for example, fundraising is very, very important. How do you get involved in a community where you can even tap into the corporate social responsibilities of particular organizations? How can they help?
Old student of Winneba Senior High School, Ekuya Gabra, simply wants the Akufo-Addo-led government to listen to voices of reason and let parents who can afford to cater for the awards in schools do so.
But since it's free SHS and they are not able to pay for the food, there's shortage of food and the children are complaining, the students are complaining that there's no food. And so I think the parents should pay the fees and Nana should cancel the free SHS.
The ball is in the court of the government. Will it listen and revise where necessary? Efforts to reach the Ghana Education Service for comment have not yet been successful.
You're watching the Citi Newsroom here on Citi TV. Still to come. NDC delegates in the Ododo-Diodio constituency gear up to participate in the party's parliamentary primaries after initial postponement. We'll bring you more stories after this break. Do stay with us.